Joe, Penn State versus the Oregon Ducks. I think a lot of people in the Big Ten have been anticipating this one because Penn State's kind of had a couple of little walkthroughs here in the beginning of the season, but have looked good doing it. Oregon has just kind of turned heads of the entire country based off of what they've done so far through 4 weeks. Penn State versus Oregon. How do you see this one playing out?
Blake, I've had a lot of trouble picking which side I lean on because this game being at Penn State is absolutely an advantage. And we get a whiteout night game. That is absolutely an advantage. And Penn State has done a lot of the things that we were expecting from them to the degree of their defensive dominance. They have taken the step forward that we were projecting for them. They're fast, they're physical, they're athletic, and Jim Knowles has activated this team right away. There has been no hesitation. I know that they haven't played anybody, but I implore everybody to go look at the bloodbath that they have put out there against all of those opponents that they have seen.
They've sleptwalk. Right.
Where I have hesitation, though,
here we go.
Like I feel a little off about Drew Allar. And I was on with Tom Hannafin of State of State, and we talked about. He asked me straight up. We talked about this. Am I worried about Allar? He has not played to the degree that I think a lot of us hoped. And what I mean by is we were hoping that this year he would take the step. And when you take the step, when you're as physically gifted and as talented as Drew Allar, you're supposed to light up the scoreboard against the bad teams like Fernando Mendoza has done already for Indiana. You're supposed to go 21 of 23 for 230 yards and 5 touchdowns. Oh, wait, that was against Illinois. Allar is still misfiring, and the internal clock sometimes isn't there. But before we dig into Oregon, Blake, I have to say, I do wonder if this is a little bit similar to Gunnar Stockton. Is this similar to where we're overanalyzing this kid because there's a microscope on him? And the minute that he gets the lights on and he plays a big game, he finally shows the version of him that he's been working on this offseason. I know I'm projecting a lot there, but it's fair to say.
They have not opened up anything.
Right. That's my point.
I mean, Joe, let's just be real. There have been a couple of times that they've taken shots, and I'm not saying that they haven't. However, Joe, I mean, every Penn State game that I've watched throughout the year so far, slant, hitch, drag. Slant, hitch, drag, swing pass. I really
and Wildcat with when they bring in. Yeah.
Right. I mean, listen, I'm not. So my number one thing is to kind of counteract what you're saying, or not counteract, to build off what you're saying. Excuse me. Who is Penn State? I don't think we have any clue. I really don't. What in the hell does Andy Kotelnicki have up his sleeve? Because he's got shit up his sleeve that Oregon's not seen on film. And quite honestly, I don't think they're prepared for. Got to be real with you. Joe, last year, Drew Allar did not have a bad game versus Oregon. And I know it's a completely different team. He had some really good things and did some really good things. Can they run the football and take the pressure off of him? This Oregon defense and this front seven's very nasty. And I think that for me, is even – and I'm wearing Oregon green here. I look at this game and say to myself, Joe, listen, you have a stable of running backs and a duo of running backs that might be the best. That offensive line's still been very good, and they're trying to run the ball on 3rd and 6, and they're just kind of running clock, not doing much. Who is the real Penn State? Now, I will say this: they have dominated up front, and you don't need to know the opponent when you watch them and look how dominating they've been. Dennis Sutton, hot take, Dennis Sutton might be one of the top 5 players in the country. I don't even think that that's remotely a opinion at this point, how dominant they've been and looked defensively. But I do wonder, Joe, now that they're going to get tested, what they look defensively under Jim Knowles, how Drew Allar looks. And we have to get those questions because we don't know. The real questions that I start asking myself in this game, can Dante Moore go on the road halfway across the country or literally all the way across the country in that environment when, quite frankly, you have not been tested like that and you have not been tested like this? Can you make the plays? Joe, is this Oregon wide receiver room, who quite honestly has been able to sleepwalk themselves through the first couple of weeks, this really isn't a secondary that you can sleepwalk against because they're really talented and they will light you up. This is as even as I think two teams can get. And I do wonder if the experience for Allar can propel them over Oregon. And that's why our good friends over at FanDuel have Penn State at -3.5. I got to be real with you. I was a little shocked. -3.5. That's a lot.
Well, it's a pick 'em. It's it is essentially establishing as a pick 'em.
Well, maybe it's a lot for me because I thought Oregon would be favored, to be honest with you. And Penn State was making a deep run in my playoffs. But the bottom line for me here, Dante Moore status, and can Drew Allar finally make the big plays? And Joe, here's the thing. We've made so much about James Franklin. We've made so much about Drew Allar. Can they finally get that quote-unquote signature win? Can they finally get over that hump now that you have everyone returning? And, Joe, what is this Penn State wide receiver core? Because you went out and spent a lot of money. And this Oregon DB room is not great. They might be elite. So we'll see there.
Well, the opposite matchup applies too, because you've got this elite Penn State DB room with AJ Harris and Zakee Wheatley, and you've got all these bodies out there that can run with.
Don't go across the middle. Don't go across the middle on Wheatley.
Malik Benson, seriously. So like there is going to be a challenge trying to create separation and get open for both of these teams. I do think who runs the ball most effectively will be a big decider in this. And as we already always know, Penn State ranks in the top 10 since Kotelnicki stepped in explosiveness in the run game. They're going to be able to produce big plays if it's Katron Allen or it's Nick Singleton. And we've seen so far this year that Katron Allen has stepped up and has been the more productive running back. But that doesn't mean that Singleton doesn't emerge like he did during the second half of last season. It is tough to figure out where to direct your attention. I think one part about this conversation that's really weird, and I don't know as much about if Penn State has done this, and I don't think that they have, because they haven't blown teams out as much as Oregon has. Mm-hmm. Oregon is really tricky to really truly grade and evaluate because they're barely playing their starters. We talked about that going into the Oregon State game. Mm-hmm. They have been getting up so big on their opponents that they haven't had to finish games with their starters in the game. I do wonder, is there something that we're missing that has not been proven to us because of that?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. What are they going to be able to do in the run game? Because, Joe, they've gotten 4 straight weeks, whatever it is, where they have more than 9 people getting more than 2 carries a game. And I know that, like, that tells me that you're trying to show a lot of things and do a lot of things and rep a lot of things. And I get that. And you're not playing good opponents. I get all of that. But, Joe, go look at it. Go watch their games. I mean, a lot of people are getting in the action in the run game, which is not a problem. Like, we even talked about DeCorian Moore getting involved in the run game in back-to-back weeks, which is fine. I'm not saying it's not fine at all. What I am saying is that going to be your weakness? Now, you did bring in 2 portal tackles. They have not seen what they're going to see on Saturday night. And I wonder how both tackles hold up against 2 really good and physical ends who, Joe, to be blunt with you, I do want to see the Dante Moore. They're going to have to try to run the ball, but I really wonder how Jim Knowles is going to try to attack this young quarterback and get after him and try to get him rattled. I don't think that this is like, Oregon's been blowing everybody out, so they're going to blow out Penn State. I don't know about that. I do think that they're going to be able to get after Dante Moore, and he's going to have to make right decisions.
Yeah, and I mean, also you talked about there's a little bit of reshaping, but Isaiah World's still a tremendous offensive lineman. You do have more continuity with Penn State's offensive line, and I'm a very big fan of Drew Shelton for the upcoming draft. I think that there's a real shot with the way that he's establishing himself that he could go on to becoming the first tackle drafted in the 2026 NFL draft. There is a real shot at that. I think that my last angle for this, Blake, does go with the quarterbacks, because we spent a lot of time talking about Allar and what he's going to do in this game. You mentioned it earlier. What does Dante Moore do traveling on the road? How does he handle that setting? Because we've mentioned this, we've alluded to this. Other outlets have been more vocal than us, surprisingly, about it. He has played at a Heisman level. He has played tremendously well. He's playing in a system that is perfect for his tools, and he has been really productive and efficient. He has been the epitome of efficiency.
But they've been.
How does that apply in this setting going up against this defense?
Well, Oklahoma State just lost to Tulsa.
I know, and we're not saying this to poo-poo on Dante Moore. It's more so, I believe in him, and I think that he's going to step up. But does he step up? Does he step up as much as he's stepped up already to start the year? Does the opponent not matter in this circumstance?
Well, listen, this is how I envision their win. I don't know what the young wide receivers, I don't know what their receiving core really is yet. We both have talked a lot about how much we love DeLeone and Moore. Sadiq's going to have to get more than 10 targets. He's going to have to be the safety blanket for him. I'm trying to find 18 as quickly as possible, to be blunt. A lot, because I think that I do think there could be a little bit of a mismatch there. Wheatley, I love him to death, and at the end of last season, I was calling him the best safety in the country because of how he just lays people out. He can be very handsy with tight ends and a little too handsy. So, look, I think Dante Moore can go and prove to a lot of people who he is and how talented he is. It's just, look, young quarterback on the road is a challenging task. And by the way, you have a young wide receiver core. So they've been blowing teams out, but they're going to have to answer a lot of questions here. I keep going back and forth in my brain. I talk myself into Oregon. But see, the thing here is I look at the front seven for Oregon, and then I know what Drew Allar's been, and he's got to raise his level of play. So then it's like, look, we say and focus all on Dante Moore, but then I think about Drew Allar too, and I'm like, are they finally going to do what everybody's been making fun of them about not being able to do?
Well, and this is not directed at either quarterback. This is merely just a statement. This happens more in college football than we want to recognize, where the first 4 games of the year, when neither team really plays anybody, the guy who's statistically better, we've seen instances where said player ends up kind of crashing and leveling out, and the guy who maybe was struggling for the first 4 games, hitting a rhythm, hitting a stride because he's a gamer, and the big games are the ones that he gets up for and that he gets focused in and then he gets locked in. Nico is example A of the side of the player who was doing tremendously well. And I am not comparing Dante Moore to Nico, but I'm just saying that things change drastically after the first month. This is the truest pivot point of the season where everything will change. And everything that we thought that we knew could be completely exposed and altered.
Well, as we constantly say on the show, I mean, week 5, week 6 is normally when you start really knowing a lot about a lot of teams, because they start playing a lot of teams or a lot of better opponents. All right.